Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 14, Episode 11, overall 726 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by our friends at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in their great selection of all dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family run and operated here in the city of Guelph since 1969. I hope everyone is doing well on this Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026. A lot going on in the world of professional sports. We got the World Cup here in Toronto tonight. Croatia and Panama are tied 0-0 at halftime as well. I'm looking forward to our guest tonight. This is going to be her first appearance on our show. I met her through LinkedIn, and she is a mental performance coach, a speaker, an author, and the founder of Becoming My Stronger Me. She works with professional athletes, coaches, and leaders, and she went to Penn State University, the home of Saquon Barkley. So we're going to bring on our guest tonight. Her name is Coach Nassim. I hope I have her last name right, Ebrahimi. And if I got it wrong, I apologize. And we're going to bring on Coach Nassim right now. Good evening. How are you?
Good.
If I
Thanks for
got it
having
wrong,
me.
I apologize. And we're going to bring on Coach Nassim right now. Good evening. How are you?
Good.
If I
Thanks for
got it
having
wrong,
me.
I apologize. And we're going to bring on Coach Nassim just a little right now. Good evening. How are you?
Good.
If I
Thanks
got
for
it
having
wrong,
me.
I apologize. And we're going to bring on Coach Nassim just a little right now. Everybody, just apologize. Just a little audio issue right here. Little feedback. Everybody, just apologize. Just a little audio issue right here. Little feedback. Everybody, just apologize. Just a little audio issue right here. Okay, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna just try logging off again. I'm not sure. I do apologize. I don't know where the audio feedback's coming from. I'm gonna just try logging off. Do you have? I'm not sure. Do you have another page open? Feedback's coming from. I'm gonna just try logging off. Okay, I'm gonna just try. I'm not sure. Okay, everybody, I'm just a technical glitch right here. We're gonna just try to resolve it. So I'm gonna log off and try to come back on. I'm just a technical glitch right here. We're gonna. Can you hear me now? Are we okay? Hello, Coach. Okay. Everybody, I do apologize. Technology in TV, radio, live streaming doesn't always go smoothly, so I do apologize for the audio feedback. Hopefully we can get Coach Nassim back. Her name is Nassim Ebrahimi. She's a mental performance coach, speaker, author, and founder of Becoming My Stronger, and she works with professional athletes, coaches, and leaders. So hopefully we can get her back on, and thank you for your patience, everybody. Technical issues do happen in TV, radio, and live streaming, so we're going to bring Coach Nassim back on. I hope you can hear me now. No feedback?
I can. Thank you so much, Chris, and thanks everyone for your patience.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope I didn't give you a bad impression. And technology, when it works, is great, but sometimes things do happen. You just have to roll with the punches. So thank you so much for your patience. And I forgot to do this when you came on tonight, too. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much for coming on here. Where are you based out of?
So I'm actually based out of Maryland. I'm right in between the Baltimore and DC area, but I coach teams and athletes actually all over the world. So over in Europe and here across the states.
How are things in Maryland right now?
They're good. It's been a little bit rainy, but the sun came out, and so it's been beautiful. I cannot complain. I mean, the World Cup is on. I know you shared with the audience. There's a lot of amazing soccer going on, and that's one of my favorite sports. So it has been a very good time.
When I was much younger back in the 70s and early 80s, I loved playing soccer. I just never got into watching it on TV. And I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who are you cheering for in the World Cup besides the States?
Oh my
Who's your
goodness. Okay, so
who's your
of
main
course
team?
I love a good underdog. So Iran and US, because that's me, right? So I'm Iranian by nationality. And of course, growing up here, we love to see a good US team. And they're looking really good this year. This is probably the first time that I'm watching the games and the US is playing, and I'm actually excited about how they're playing and the level that they're playing. In terms of who's going to win, it's so tough because we have so many greats playing in the World Cup this year, as we do every 4 years. But I feel like this year in particular, a lot of powerhouses are coming in and they're showing up and they're showing out and, setting a lot of good records. I know Messi just broke the all-time highest goals in a World Cup record. He is at 18, and we are only in the first round of play. We got to see some beautiful goals from Ronaldo today, which was really nice because he hadn't scored yet in the first game. And of course, Mbappe is here, and he's looking fit and fast. So I'm just excited that we get to watch such good soccer, and it's hosted here in the U.S. and of course with our neighbors Canada and Mexico.
Absolutely, in Vancouver, in Toronto, and Canada won their last game 6-0. So Canada soccer is getting better and better, and I might have to start getting to some soccer games because I know how fun the sport is to play, but to watch it. But the World Cup is probably even bigger than the Super Bowl, and I'm a big NFL fan, but I have to admit the World Cup's even got that beat.
So I had an opportunity this past weekend to go watch a game in the stadium, and the fans, the vibe, honestly, even the volunteers, how much they've organized, how kind they are, how well they're managing these large numbers of crowds. I mean, the stadium I was in LA, over 70,000 people in the seats is what they announced towards the end of the game. That's a lot of people to get in and get out safely, and they did just a spectacular job. So I really want to commend the volunteers, all the organizers across all three countries. It has been an incredible set of games, and they've just done a magnificent job. And if you're not able to go into the stadium, I know all the cities are doing fan fests. And so just get involved in your local community. I think that's an amazing way to share this incredible sport is with your neighbors. And it's a great way just to take a soccer ball with you and kind of kick around and, have a picnic and watch some free soccer. So it doesn't always have to be in a stadium to have vibes. Sports just bring us all together.
Absolutely. Any plans to go to any games in Mexico or Toronto or in Vancouver?
Unfortunately not. So we did reserve, we budgeted for one game in one location. As everyone knows, this has been a very expensive World Cup, but we've been watching as many games as possible on TV with our friends and fan fest. So we're definitely enjoying the games, but I don't think we'll be traveling anymore to watch them.
Did you ever play soccer when you were younger, or did you ever coach soccer?
I did. I played soccer. So I've never coached soccer, but I did play. I played growing up and then also in high school. And then I played as an adult. So it is my game of choice. I absolutely love the sport. I haven't played in a little bit. Instead, I have morphed into soccer mom. So both of my kids play or did play at a very high level. My daughter just finished her freshman year in high school. In college. Clearly, I'm in denial that she's in college. But she just finished her first year in college. She did not play for the university team, but she played for fun. And I think that is probably the most important thing. I'm very proud of being a soccer mom that didn't kill the love of the game. And that she continues to, enjoy it. And then my son, who's 16, he's got some big dreams and big aspirations. So he's working very hard to reach his own goals, and we support him as best we can. So I love all my roles, but didn't coach soccer directly, but I am a mental performance coach. And a lot of my athletes, professional, college, and the youth athletes that I serve, a lot of them are soccer players.
Now, being here in the Toronto area, I cover a lot of the Canadian Football League teams. Have you ever dealt with any of the CFL teams or any of the players?
I haven't. So Canada is actually a place that I don't have any current athletes. And actually, I don't think I have anybody who's played any sport in Canada. So, I mean, to your listeners, virtual sessions are virtual sessions, whether you're here. I've coached players in Hungary. I've coached players in Austria. I've coached players in England. So I've got players overseas. Why not Canada? So I would love to support not just soccer, but I have athletes across sport. So I've got track athletes. So I've got a lot of runners. I've got swimmers. I've got volleyball players. Football is a very mental sport. I mean, it is so incredibly physically taxing that you really have to dig deep. And, there's a lot of parts of the game that are not in your control, but maximizing the things that are in your control is a gift. And it's a skill that can be trained. And so I would welcome the opportunity to, support athletes across the border.
Well, I will be at the Toronto Argonauts practice tomorrow for the Canadian Football League, and I will mention your name in our show tonight as well.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that.
Love, and that's what I love about this platform is not just the storytelling aspect, connecting guests with other guests or getting them opportunities as well. And hey, football, any sport is high pressure, and especially I'm going to tell you in these sports, quarterback, goalie, pitcher. In football, the kick, not just the quarterback, but the kickers too. Because when they hit their field goals and extra points, okay, nobody cares. But when they miss an extra point or a field goal, fans go crazy on it. And there is such a strong mental side to it. And I've talked to special teams coaches too, and the mindset and the confidence is just as important as the talent aspect. And I'm sure you see it all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously there are key positions that get a lot of visibility in terms of the critical need of that level mindset, right? The mindset that they can go to at any moment of any game, winning or losing. Both are really important. But I would argue that every position carries that, especially in team sports. Now, individual sports, obviously, it's all you, right? So let's say our tennis players who are playing singles, super tough, right? You train all this time and then you get out there and in 2 hours, you maybe not perform. Track, especially hard. You might train for 4 years to run 10, 11 seconds. And that's a lot. That's a lot of preparation. That's a lot of focus to then need to really dig deep and pull something really special out. So, kudos to athletes that are doing individual sports, but also athletes that are doing team sports. There is not a position across any sport that doesn't feel the weight of the game sometimes, doesn't feel the weight of a loss or the excitement of a win. And you always want to just harness that. It's not about not having those feelings, but really leveraging them to stay productive. And I think that's the beauty of doing mental performance coaching is, quite frankly, there's pressure everywhere. I mean, I'm not currently a competitive athlete and I feel pressure in my day. I love to use my athlete mindset, the techniques that I give my athletes to help me leverage and maximize and harness the emotions, right? I get nervous and jittery ahead of high profile podcasts like this one, and
I'm still a work in progress.
Calm ourselves, make sure we stay, mentally clear, focused in the present moment. And even if it doesn't improve your game, which of course it does, right? We know that science shows that. But even if it doesn't for you, you'll at the very least enjoy the journey more. And what an amazing thing that is.
How would you describe yourself as an athlete, and how much being an athlete along with your education is able to help you as a mental performance coach?
I would say way back when, I think you and I are the same generation. So way back when I was much more of a competitive athlete, I would say I was hungry, right? I always wanted to do better, be better. honestly, I didn't want to be better. I just wanted to be the best. And I think that competitive edge was something that I was, and probably still am, quite frankly, as an entrepreneur. I want to be the best. I also want to bring that out in my athletes to make them feel like they can be the best. But I think some of my superpowers, and that's what I call those. Sorry, I'm like going into the language I use with my athletes is like, what are your superpowers? But some of my superpowers are that I'm disciplined and I'm consistent. I mean, almost disciplined to a fault. I've done all sorts of challenges for myself as an adult working out. You know, I worked out 365 days in a particular year. I actually did that 3 years in a row. I've rode on an erg, which is the indoor row machine. I rode 1,000,000 meters a few years in a row. So I set goals and I chase them. And I think these kinds of skills are things that I bring to my coaching. And quite frankly, even when I coach executives, right? There are plenty of executives who used to be athletes, but they're not leveraging all of the athlete mindset that can help them be successful. And then, of course, there are youth athletes that are just developing these skills. And so, how do we help nurture and cultivate them, or remind our adult athletes that you have these skills that you can leverage and they will systematically lead you to success? And I think that's because I naturally was that. Coaching is such an easy fit for me.
Coach Nassim, your clientele, how young of clients do you work with then?
Yeah. So every time I've been asked this, I used to say that it would be high school and higher. And then I would meet some phenomenal middle schoolers that I just couldn't wait to help. And so then it was middle school and up. Quite frankly, I actually started on the pro side. So my first set of athletes were professional athletes and college athletes. It was those athletes that said to me, I wish I would have had you, 10, 15 years ago. And so I kind of opened my doors to coaching the younger athletes. Now I actually have an athlete that's 9. So I have gone down to the elementary school age. I keep saying that's the bottom, that's the floor. And I'm pretty sure developmentally that's right. So my education is actually not in kind of traditional mental performance coaching. I did not come to this career this way. My educational background is developmental psychology. So I am most interested in how things develop over time and making sure that when we're guiding and when we're coaching, we're doing it in a way that's developmentally appropriate, right? What you can expect a 9-year-old's brain to do and process is different than a 15-year-old's brain, which is different than a 22-year-old's brain. And so making sure that we coach with that in mind. And of course, then the female brain different than the male brain. We're not saying the standard should be lower. The standards should be high, but we will coach differently to help the athlete get to that standard. And so my developmental background is a bit different than more of a traditional mental performance coach who maybe got a certified mental performance coach training certificate. And those are very valuable educational experiences and very valuable credentials. But I approach coaching a little bit differently.
Thoughts on your time at Penn State, and who are some of your early influences and mentors?
Oh my goodness. So just for the audience, I did my graduate work at Penn State. So I got my master's and my doctorate there. And I specialized in friendships in adolescence. And so I was most interested in not only research on jealousy and cliques and bullying, which was mainly the hot topic of the time, but I was most interested in people within a social network that could navigate different friend groups. And the reason why I kind of go into this detail is I think being an athlete had cultivated my own skills in being able to do that. So then when I got to grad school, I kind of wanted to study where that came from and how I was able to, be an effective social butterfly, and not just from a social standpoint, but all the amazing advantages and some disadvantages that it brought with it. So my influences, of course, were my mentor there, Jeffrey Parker. I worked in his lab. I don't think he's at Penn State anymore. I think he is, I want to say maybe he's at Auburn. I'm not 100% sure. But he was an amazing influence. And quite frankly, my other fellow graduate students were amazing influences there. They have gone on to, obviously finish their grad studies. Some have continued in the higher education space and are incredible researchers. Some have gone on and done a lot of career changes. They've traveled the world. They've raised families. They've done all sorts of things. But the reason why they were so influential for me is that it really showed that our degrees were not limiting to a particular industry or a particular job. And I think having my eyes open to that early on in my educational career allowed me to do my pivot more successfully later. So I actually entered the workforce with my doctorate teaching psychology. So I taught at a variety of 2-year and 4-year institutions all across the East Coast of the United States. And I taught everything from like the 100 level basic intro courses all the way to the 400 level courses in child development. And then from a faculty perspective, I went on and wanted to do more research. So I was doing more research at that point on emotional intelligence. So my interest kind of morphed more into the adulthood space and like how some of those relationships and emotional intelligence that I was seeing in my research in middle school was then translating into adulthood. And then recession hits here. I also got married, started a family, but when the recession hits, there was no jobs to come back to, right? No grant funding, no research, no extra research being done, nobody adding faculty to their staff. And I had to pivot. I had to make do. And so I was very fortunate to learn about a whole industry, learning outcomes assessment that was able to blend my love of teaching and being in the classroom and being an effective faculty member with my love of research. So I started helping other faculty members be better instructors and really maximize the learning outcomes for the student. And then I rose through the ranks very quickly on the administrative side of the community college world. So community colleges here, for those unfamiliar in the United States, are 2-year institutions that then can either go right into the workforce. They could come from the workforce, get additional credentials, or they could go on and transfer to 4-year colleges and universities. And then I was in the administration. I rose from a research associate to a director, and then from a director to an associate vice president to a vice president, and just kind of rose through the ranks. Absolutely love making a difference in people's lives through education. I mean, I identified very early on that was my purpose, and it still is.
And for some people, they find their passion later in life, like myself. As you can see, I'm wearing a hat here, but how important was it to wear many different hats and all your life experiences? How did that help you as a mental developmental coach? And I wanted to ask you this as well. Do you find there are more mental performance coaches than ever before? And do you find there's more diversity in your industry too now with women in that?
Oh, well, great question. So let me tackle the first one about wearing many hats and all my experiences. When I resigned, so it's super long story, but if you want the details of it, go to my podcast. I did a whole first season on my transition into mental performance coaching. But when I did decide to kind of come out of higher education, that was a very thoughtful, calculated decision. So I know some people during COVID, they were almost forced out. For me, I actually stayed a full year from the moment kind of COVID really shut everything down. And I helped the institution kind of transition a new president. And then I came to a crossroads and I needed to make a decision on whether I was going to stay or whether I needed some space to reflect. And I chose taking the space to reflect. Now, for most people, they don't have that luxury. And I fully recognize that my ability to take that time away without going to another job comes from the support of my family. And without that support, I would not have been able to take some time away, reflect, resurface my passions and kind of piece them together, get additional education, and then come into the mental performance space. from a true place of passion. So I'm very, very grateful to my husband, to my family, the kids being so understanding. When a two household salary goes to one, everybody is involved in that and everybody's affected. So I'm very, very grateful for that. And then coming into the space, it's absolutely from a place of passion. And yes, this space is growing. And I think it's not that it didn't exist before. It did exist before. And there were mental performance coaches back in like the 70s. But it wasn't, first of all, as Will talked about, it wasn't so open. Athletes were not, we saw an Eagles player from the NFL reading Inner Excellence on the sideline. Now that is not
AJ Brown. AJ Brown.
That's right, AJ Brown. So that's not my book, and I'm not sponsored by them. I'm not, I'm just bringing it up as this is how critical it is. I mean, we hear in interviews all over the place with players of honestly every sport. When we had Simone Biles come out and say, "I'm not competing because I'm not quite right," and that's dangerous. And to have stepped away in such a pivotal moment and owned it and been open about it and then come back even stronger. This is how we've evolved. This is kind of the beauty of being able to share information is we're not afraid of that anymore. It's actually a place of strength, right? Seeking support, honing your craft in all of the parts of the game, not just the physical parts of the game, not just the technical parts of your sport, not just the strategy and technical or the tactical parts, but even the mental part can be trained and is openly discussed and talked about in terms of its importance. Yes, the field is absolutely growing. There are a lot more of us. And the good thing about that is now athletes have more choices. You can find a mental performance coach that fits you. You don't have to go to the one that's assigned to your team. Let's say if you're a pro athlete or you're here in the States, a Division I college student, you're not forced that that's the only resource in your community. Now you have a choice. You can find someone that's a fit for you. And I think that choice, that freedom to find someone that works for you can make such a difference. Now, male, female, yes, I think the female side of this is still growing. I think just like most things, there's a bit of an imbalance. But I think the imbalance is going to be very, very temporary. I mean, we have some phenomenal past athletes that are now retiring, but coming into the space to support. We've got a lot of psychologists making adjustments and coming in and really leveraging sports psychology. And we're just a lot more open about what it is we do. And we're kind of unapologetic. I think that's phenomenal for the field. We're not afraid of saying this is valuable and it can be trained.
If somebody's watching our show live stream in audio and they're an athlete and they're looking for a mental performance coach, what are some good signs or keys to finding a good one? And can you also talk to us a little bit, Coach, about the certification qualification process of this?
Sure, absolutely. So in terms of a fit, so whether it's a parent that comes to me or a coach that comes to me, so if somebody is referring an athlete, not the athlete themselves, but if someone is referring an athlete, I actually, as a mental performance coach, won't accept the athlete until I speak with the athlete. No matter what age, right? The 9-year-old had to do the same. Actually, she did that this week and she did great, all the way to my pro athletes. And the reason is the mental part of the game cannot be seen as readily as the technical or the physical or even the tactical knowledge and implementation that an athlete can show on a field, on a court, on the track, wherever it is that they compete. So if there isn't rapport, trust, mutual respect, understanding of the space, and that I want to call it chemistry, but I know that develops, but that
rapport,
the rapport, right? The connection. Because like I could teach as a mental performance coach, but then I'm not coaching, right? Coaching involves a two-way street. I need to understand where you are, what's happening. And I also need to understand where you want to go. And then as a coach, my job is to, kind of quote unquote, set up the cones, set up the drills, set up the strategies to get you from where you are to where you want to go. But just like any other coach in any sport, I can't do the work. Right. So let's just take the football, right? American or Canadian football, right? As a coach, I can set up the drill, but if the coach runs through the drill, the athletes don't get better.
No.
Right? So the coach's job is to really understand what they need, right? Know the environment well enough to understand what's needed, have a really strong, solid background, have strategy, right? Understand how to coach, but they need to set up the environment. It is the athlete that does the work. Mental performance is no different. So that rapport is what an athlete should look for. They should take their time, right? They should also understand confidentiality and whether or not they want that coach to interface with the other coaches. Do they want a coach that becomes part of their coaching team? Let's say a lot of tennis players have coaching teams in their coaches boxes, right? There's like the hitting coach and the serving coach, and then there's like kind of an overarching coach and a mental performance coach, and they all sit together. It's very coordinated. Football, they, have an offensive coach, a defensive coach, a head coach, and then all the extra coaches. I don't know all of them. Soccer as well. So all these sports have teams of coaches, but as an athlete, you may not want your mental performance coach to interface with them. So understanding and having that conversation is important, but then the athlete also needs to know what it is they do want. So from that perspective, I always think it's really important for an athlete to feel comfortable and think that it's going to work. Don't just meet with the coach and kind of check it off the box and all of a sudden you think magically something's going to happen. That's like setting up cones and always training at 25%. If you train at 25%, your outcome is going to be 25%. Mental performance is no different. And then the second part of your question about credentialing. So there's a lot of different ways you can look for credentialing. So sports psychology as a field, you can have, I think you can have a master's and a doctorate. So I would look for someone who is somewhat specialized credentialed. Then there's also certifications that you can have. So it's called a CMPC. It's a certified mental performance coach. Those letters at the end of their name means that they've gone through a pretty rigorous, not only curriculum, but also testing, and they have a certain number of hours that they've already worked with athletes. Funny, I don't have either of those things. So I am in this space and I'm very open that I am not a traditional sports psychologist. I'm a mental performance coach that approaches athletes from a developmental point of view. Now, did I get additional certification? Yes. And there are lots of different ones out there. So, I had my doctorate before I came into the field. But as long as you are comfortable with the knowledge and information that you're getting from that coach and it is sound, the good thing now is you have a computer in your hand, right?
Yep.
You can fact check some of the things that they're saying.
Yep.
And I would say think critically, right? As an athlete, think critically about what it is you're hearing. Does it make sense? Does it work for you? And if it doesn't, don't be afraid to make a change. Just like you wouldn't be afraid to make a change in your strength and conditioning coach if they were not helping you get stronger, faster, or have more endurance. So I would treat them just like any other coach and find someone that fits you.
What are your thoughts, Coach, on the impact of social media and the internet? Being born in 72, I was born in 72. I'm going to be 54, and I'm proud of it. But back in the 70s and 80s, and even the 90s, there was no social media and internet. And now you have a lot of professional athletes on social media and the internet. And sometimes it's not always, I don't think it's always the best for them. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think social media, just like any other tool, just like any other platform, it's a tool and a platform, right? It's less about the actual tool and platform and how it's being used. So that's the piece that's in the athlete's control. Oftentimes parents will ask me about, athletes scrolling before a game and what that does to the brain. And yes, there is some research out there, but it's less about what they're doing versus what they're watching and how they're taking it in. I mean, I put a lot of mental performance content on social media in 30-second, 45-second, minute intervals. And if my athletes are using socials to go find one of those to listen to or do, some breath work before their game or do a visualization before their game, great. Right? The platform isn't the problem. It's what they're doing with it. Now, all the other things around, and I think this is where people worry, is when the reason people do things becomes for the public, right? It shifts the motivation from I'm doing this for me versus I'm doing this so I can get the right picture to post so that other people think I'm doing really well. Same picture, but the motivation is completely different. So if you're a parent or even if you're an athlete, I would reflect on what is the purpose of it for you? Does it have educational value? There's tons of accounts that have amazing educational value, right? I mean, even this podcast, right? The podcast has amazing educational value. Would we take this away from Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn? No, we would encourage it. So I think that's part of the issue. I think the other thing is the amount of time, is the time component and how athletes, and quite frankly, all of us, manage our time.
Time management is huge.
And is it aligned to our priorities? Is it aligned to the things that we value? I think if you can answer those two questions and the proportion of time that you spend on social media or engaging with others is aligned with your values and your priorities, and it's benefiting you reaching your goals, great. If it's getting in the way, ask yourself how much you need to adjust for it to become more productive. Do you need to adjust what you're watching and what you're engaging with, or do you need to change the amount of time you're engaging in that space? So what is its added value and what is it getting in the way of? And I think, we're not going to get away from social media, right?
No.
So even as a parent of athletes, I did wait. So I'll be honest, my kids didn't have phones until they were freshmen in high school, or actually the summer before they were freshmen in high school. So I wanted that device not to be so accessible. Now, did they have iPads? Yes. Did they have computers? Yes. So I'm not against screen time and all of that. I just didn't want it physically in their hand, but they had access. When they got access, we waited a bit to add social media, right? Can you use it responsibly before adding social media? Now, this is a decision I made for my kids because it's aligned to my values, our lifestyle, what they needed, and the children that I had. I'm not saying that's what every parent should do. But as long as it's intentional and thoughtful, I think, that's how you find that right balance for you. But it's not going away. We got to teach our kids how to cross the street. We got to teach our kids, how to use their phones or their devices or social media or different platforms responsibly. And I really believe that it's about how do we help them navigate in a world that isn't going to be devoid of distractions and tools. Quite frankly, it's just going to keep having more and more of them, right? How do we do AI?
And that's another subject right there, AI. It's, in my opinion, it's a good tool if you use it the right way. Now, do you feel it is shrinking the workforce, or do you feel it's creating more jobs?
So I think we're going to see an ebb and flow there. So if I put my higher ed hat on and not my mental performance coach hat, I think it's going to ebb and flow, just like any technology that got added, right? So we had technology that got added way back when that created factories, automated factories. And all of a sudden we were so worried about this workforce really shrinking. So sure, it shrunk in that way, but it added other jobs in other ways. And I think the addition of AI is going to ebb and flow. So I think certain spaces we're going to see a shrinking, and so certain places it's going to open up new industries. Honestly, I think the most important thing right now for people who are getting their education or wanting to go back is, are you good at learning, and are you good at learning fast? Right? So the world, that I think that is the piece that's the biggest difference now, is the rate of change, not the fact that change is occurring. So can we nurture curiosity? Can we nurture critical thinking? Can we nurture kind of the love of learning and the challenge of learning so that we stay in that growth mindset? Things are changing, no problem. I've got the basic skills and competencies that will make me successful in any content area. And I think that's, I think AI is showing us more and more rapidly that we just got to become more flexible and lean on those core competencies a little bit more.
15 years ago, I didn't even know what Wi-Fi was. I've had to reinvent it myself the last 10 years, and I've had to learn a lot of things, how to edit video, learn what Wi-Fi is. I had to learn how to do a podcast, but I wasn't afraid to ask people that were experienced in doing this 7 years ago. They gave me some advice, some tips. They paid it forward to me, and I've had a number of professional broadcasters give me some advice, and now I do the same thing for younger people or people wanting to get into this field as well. And Coach, I have a question from a viewer from YouTube, Architect Tone. He's watching on YouTube. He wants to know, what should my mental routine look like before, during, and after a high pressure performance? Great question.
Yeah, really great question. So I would say it depends on how you are responding. So pressure itself is not the issue. Not everybody sees the same moment the same. What is happening within you is the thing that, really taking a moment to feel it, name it, normalize it, and then look to make it productive. For everybody, that's going to look a little bit different. So let's take something that's maybe more common, kind of stereotypically, is we get nervous in a high pressure moment ahead of a game or even during a game. Right? So those high pressure moments and nerves, that emotion has a response, right? Our biology responds. You typically have increased heart rate. You might get a little sweaty. You get a little hot, sometimes a little jittery. Muscles get a little tight, right? Sometimes we see the shoulders elevate. Like, just everything feels a little choppy, a little tense. So the important thing is to identify the emotion that goes with that, right? So you're having those experiences. Okay, those experiences in this moment, I'm interpreting as nerves. The question then needs to be, is it productive? Sometimes we're nervous and we can lock in and focus fast, right? That's why people, executives or other, professionals, not even athletes, will wait to the last minute to do something. They almost need to manufacture pressure by nature of a deadline to then lock in and, really hit flow state and perform at their peak. Some athletes are able to do the same, right? They really rise under pressure. So then the question is the experience you're having, is it productive? And if the answer is yes, don't do anything about it. Like, continue to harness it and maximize your performance. Don't be afraid of that emotion or what your body is going through. If, however, like a lot of us, it starts to become a distraction, your mind starts racing in maybe a more negative direction. What if I mess up? What are my parents going to say? What is the coach going to think? Is he going to cut my playtime? Is my boss going to fire me? Am I going to tank this presentation? I mean, there are so many high pressure performance moments in our life. When that begins to happen, and you ask yourself the question, is it productive? And the answer is no. Then it's about regulating what you feel, because those components are in your control. So heart rate is high, exhale longer than your inhale, and that heart rate will drop. Now, there's other breath patterns that work too, but you can work with me for those details, or come to the site and book an appointment, or buy the book, or there's so many different ways to find the resources. But the gist of it is a longer exhale than an inhale, moderate that heart rate quickly. A lower heart rate helps those muscles relax. You're not so tense. You're not pumping so much blood. So fix that. During a game, very similar. So it's really about controlling your body, controlling your focus, and controlling your language, both what's coming out and what's in your head. That, I would say, that trifecta, or the triangle of state, is the easiest, fastest way to manage the high pressure moments. The piece in this question that I find fascinating is, what about after high pressure moments? Lots of things can happen here, right? The body is kind of on a endorphin high. Sometimes those endorphins are from a positive experience. Sometimes it's from a negative experience, right? I highly recommend allowing that high to come to a more neutral place before you begin reflecting. Because that extra amount of cortisol and all sorts of other, adrenaline, all sorts of other things that are coursing through your body are not allowing your brain to think critically, to reflect and grow and learn from that moment. So allowing your body to come to a more stable place before you begin the reflection and analysis process will really help learn from those high pressure moments. So that next time, maybe it doesn't feel so pressured because you've done it before now. So great, absolutely great question. I do get this a lot. Routines, and I think that's the other word here that's really important. Routines are so important because it helps signal your brain to lock in. So hopefully that helped not just this listener, but other listeners as well.
And it helped me too. And I'm going to be honest with you. Before I started this journey, even before my security career, when I was in elementary school, high school, even college, or even into my early 30s, I would shrink in high pressure performances. I would always shrink and stay in the back of the classroom. The teachers used to have to drag me up. And now, being 54, I'm not saying I'm totally comfortable, but I'm more comfortable being in front of an audience now than I was before. And it just, you change over time, and it starts with mindset, and also self-confidence. You have to believe in yourself first. If you don't believe in yourself, whether you're a football player, a tennis player, whatever career you're in, nobody else will believe in you. And also too, you're going to, whatever career you go into, not just what I'm doing, you're going to get people who support you, but you're going to get skeptics, naysayers, critics, and haters, and you have to be able to block the noise out.
Yeah, I mean, some athletes, blocking the noise is excellent. And for some athletes, listen and use it as fuel. But it just depends on you. And quite frankly, it probably depends on the moment and where you are in your journey. But yes, I mean, I think the bottom line is always, is it productive or not productive, right? Listening to those critics, is it productive for you or not productive for you? Having that emotion, is it productive or not productive? If it's productive, don't get rid of it. Keep it, harness it, leverage it. Use it as fuel, use it as, that spark to keep you going, to keep you motivated, to keep you passionate. And that's kind of the beauty of mental performance, is it's not really a one size fits all. The way I coach has a lot of education built in. I try to teach, adults and kids about the triangle of state. I try to teach them about the confidence equation, just to make it more practical. These are things that are grounded. It's not a checklist of things to do. Let's understand the tools, where they come from and why and how we can use them, and then just leave them in our toolbox. You can pull them out whenever you need, either in competition or not in competition.
Now, when I'm a talk show host and I have virtual guests like yourself, or I'm doing in person celebrity interviews or athletes, I always try to build a rapport beforehand because sometimes people get nervous or they're not talkers. And my job as an interviewer or a host is to get people to feel comfortable with me, trust me, and open up. And I had that happen a couple weeks ago with a football player, a young rookie. He was a little bit nervous about being interviewed by me. And I just said something about his Dallas Cowboys because he's from Fort Wayne, Texas. And I said, the Dallas Cowboys, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. He just smiled and laughed. And then when we started the interview, he opened right up with me too. So you need to, whatever business you're in or career, you need to be able to build a rapport with people and communicate, and trust is huge too.
Absolutely. And it starts with the little things that we do, right? That human connection. I know you and I have actually never met. So I would say, quote unquote, met on LinkedIn, right? We got
Yep.
connected on LinkedIn. And I think, we had a bit of back and forth. And of course, then you were listening to my stuff. I was listening to your stuff. And it almost felt like we were getting to know each other, not just through the dialogue and the interaction, by messaging, but also through the things that we create, right? So both of us are creators in our own space. And I just felt like the more I was listening to your interviews or I was watching other things on YouTube, on your channel, like I was getting to know you, not just your style, but the things that you're interested in. Yes, I'm also an Eagles fan, so I absolutely love that. And
Wow.
the rapport becomes easy when there's a human connection.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest, my former career in security, I did for 2 decades. I had to deal with I worked in a casino racetrack. I had to deal with a lot of different types of people, and I had to learn how to communicate. Listening. Actually, listening is even more important than talking, and also had to learn to think on my feet and deal with different situations. So, my former career, people think I'm nuts for saying this, but my former career in security, in a way, helped me prepare for media and how I talk to people. I talk to the CEO of a company the same way I would talk to someone who's a dishwasher. I treat everyone with respect, and I think that's why I've become a little bit successful in what I'm doing.
I think you've become a lot successful, and I'm just honored that you reached out and, thought highly of me enough to have me on. It has been a pleasure, really. Thank you.
Are you still good for a few more minutes? A couple more questions?
Absolutely, yes.
And
Yeah,
and I also would like to play one of your video clips from
okay.
your YouTube channel. How can people find you on social media and your YouTube channel?
Sure. So I am on Instagram at Stronger Me and on TikTok at Becoming My Stronger Me. My first name, last name is my Facebook handle. I don't even know what my YouTube is. Is it Nassim E? Honestly, I don't even know. But I know you will link it. We'll find a way to link it. I'm also on LinkedIn, or just send me a message on any of the platforms or email at Nassim at becomingmystrongerme.com. There's so many ways, and I would love to hear from folks.
I do have it on the ticker right there, your YouTube
Great.
channel at Coach Nassim videos.
Perfect. Thank you so much
Okay.
for listing
You're
that.
welcome. I love and preparation too. Athletes, musicians, whatever you do to be successful, mindset, confidence, but also you have to prepare. Preparation is important too.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Just give me 1 second. We're going to play this little clip right now. Please let me know if you can hear the audio okay.
Hi everyone, Coach Nassim here. Heading into tryouts, build a confidence anchor. Pick 3 moments where you felt proud of your performance, from games or practices or challenges you overcame. Close your eyes and picture those moments and feel the energy of success. Use that anchor as a quick boost before tryouts or when you need to shake off nerves. Confidence isn't something you wait for, it's something you practice.
So
Thoughts on the video?
strange to look back on yourself and see yourself on screen. But yeah, I mean, this it doesn't get old, right? I think that video is actually a couple years old, even maybe, but it doesn't change, and it applies to every sport. It applies to so many different. I mean, even the listener question, you know, it's about just taking a moment and focusing and preparing mentally for the situation.
And one thing too, I've learned this. I've talked to guys from the professional broadcasters that have been in the industry 20, 30, 40 years. Mistakes are going to happen, Chris. Don't beat yourself up over your mistakes. The only way you get better as a pro athlete or in media or a musician, whatever you do, is to learn from your mistakes. So if a mistake happens, don't beat yourself up on it. Or like our show tonight, a little bit of a technical glitch. Don't panic. Just get through it and know it's going to. I knew you and I were going to get a show in together, and you just don't panic.
Absolutely. And I think mistakes are gifts. If we don't make them, we don't know where and how to grow. So, that's why if you approach it from wow, I was just given a gift, I may not have to process it in this moment. I might need to just kind of move on quickly in the moment, but I was given a gift, and then it's just up to me on whether I go back to open it.
You want to continue to grow and not shrink.
Yes, absolutely.
That should be a book. That should be a book. That should be a book.
I think you just found your book title.
Or even another podcast. I have 2 other shows besides this, and I love what I'm doing. And it's just storytelling and learning from every guest that comes on here.
Yeah, and you've created such great platforms for that.
Well, thank you. Now, I wanted to ask you about your coaching sessions. As a performance coach, both in person and virtually, how long is a session typically normally?
Yeah, so I mean, age appropriate, but 45 minutes, I would say, is about the average for an individual session. I also train teams, so I'll collaborate with their coach to figure out exactly what it is, where we are in the season, what they want to work on, and I'll do team sessions. I also coach coaches, so I'm currently running an 8-week program to help existing coaches really embed more mental performance coaching into the work they already do. This isn't going to make them mental performance coaches per se, but a lot of the things that I see in my athletes could have been a little bit different had the coach had more knowledge and more education in this arm of the sport. So I've created an 8-week course. Our next one will run in September. You can always check the website to see when the next one will run if you're listening to this a little bit later. And I also coach parents. Now, I do know a lot of mental performance coaches are not providing that. But if you are an athlete with me and you are on the monthly unlimited plan, which basically means you can contact me at any point in time. And I don't take a lot of athletes in that. I only take a dozen in that plan. But your parents are included. So I really believe that the whole environment will support the athlete, not just the coach, not just me as a coach, not just their coaches, but the parents play such an important role. And our kids didn't come with manuals, right? We don't know. And so getting a little bit more insight in how to parent an athlete and how to be there for them and how to help them prepare, even using the same language that we're going to be using with your athlete, can just reinforce it. I mean, parents are such a critical part of an athlete's journey. So it is really my honor to work with them.
One thing I've learned being in the world of professional sports, doing freelance media work, coaching has changed. Back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, these guys would yell at players and it was just much a different time now. These guys are now more coaches, but the coaching philosophies had changed. It's a lot different now coaching than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago now.
Oh, absolutely. And the games have all changed, right? I can't think of a single sport that has not evolved over time. And so the coaching has evolved even from a tactical standpoint, or, how do we leverage, cognitive neuroscience to help athletes be stronger and faster and quicker on their feet? The blend of industries has really made a difference in not just the specialized coaches, but the head coaches, right? The ones that really need to be more generalists in their coaching. And I just appreciate that there are coaches out there who, and honestly, most coaches that I've met, they themselves continue to evolve. They reflect, they learn, they study, they go to conventions, they talk to their peers, they talk to their own mentors, they learn from their athletes, they learn from their own mistakes. I mean, coaches, a lot of them take the wins and losses in preparation just as hard as the athletes. And quite frankly, coaches need coaches too. So, I have coached coaches in the mental performance space. So I have been their mental performance coach, not just giving them the content for their athletes, but to help them through these tough seasons. all of us need coaches, all of us need resources, and I am just honored to be that for so many different athletes, parents, and coaches.
Is there still stereotypes about being a mental performance coach?
Being one or seeing one?
Seeing one.
Mm. I think it's hard to say because in some, and I'm just going to call them subcultures, because our family units can be a subculture. Our communities and neighborhoods can be our subculture. The sport that we're in could be a subculture. So I don't know if I feel comfortable generalizing whether or not it's acceptable. I think it's become more public and we're definitely breaking down quite a few walls, but I'm not so naive to think that there aren't pockets, there aren't subcultures that exist that still maybe find it hard to use the space. I do think mental performance coaches different than sports psychologists who maybe do therapy. I do think we get a lot more freedom because the work that we do doesn't really dig into your past. We're not trying to find the root cause of things. We're not trying to diagnose things. We just take you from where you are to where you want to be, just like any other coach. So oftentimes, even my athlete, like they're not seeing me in dressed up clothes, right? They're seeing me usually with a Adidas cap on, and I'm in my typically Adidas gear, and I'm not sponsored by them, but boy, that would be amazing. But I look like the other coaches because I am like the other coaches. I'm setting up drills and I'm reinforcing and I'm holding the players accountable. And, so whether they see me virtually or see me on a field or on a court or, wherever they're competing, I still look, even dressed like a coach. And I do that very intentionally to keep the stereotype away. We're not afraid of having coaches. Why would we be afraid of having mental coaches? It's just another part of the game.
I wanted to ask you this too. I do a lot of virtual work as well, doing freelance media work. Do you find the virtual world has kind of shrunk social skills too?
That's a really tough one. I mean, in a way, it's opened doors to additional kinds of connections and access to people in a way that maybe we wouldn't have had before. But there are social nuances that are different face to face, right? How we shake hands, how we greet people, how the spacing. I'll be honest, in my athletes, I really don't see necessarily a difference. I think a lot of those social graces come from being an athlete and oftentimes on a team, that they're already learning those social skills. So I'm not sure by, doing a lot more virtual training, it's necessarily getting in the way of that.
How would you describe yourself as a mental performance coach, and how satisfying is it being able to help athletes, coaches, teams, and leaders?
So how would I describe myself? I would describe myself as a partner in your journey. And that's it, right? And a partner means both sides are working. I do a lot of education. I hold you accountable. I'm not about kind of rah cheerleading. So I'm not, I mean, as much as I will cheer you on and I am proud of you, I'm not overly flowery by any means. I'm coaching, I'm working, just like you are when you're working with me. How satisfying is it? This is literally why I do what I do. The one light bulb moment in an athlete, one metric that they were able to change from the work that they did by clearing their mind or harnessing their emotions is incredible. It doesn't have to be the big moments. I mean, yes, a lot of my athletes are now scoring more goals. They're getting recognized by college coaches. They have better stats. The pros, they obviously track a lot more stats. They have better passing percentages. They're playing for first teams instead of second team. All of those are amazing, right? I actually love those little moments, right? The moment where I'll get a text, and sometimes I even post some of these. I'll get a text from the athlete, and they're like, "Coach Nassim, we lost, but I had the best game. I played my best." They're no longer defining themselves by the outcome of the team. they have found themselves in the space. Like that's so satisfying. And of course, then parents who will thank me because not only are they seeing maybe more confidence on the field, but they're seeing more confidence at school, more confidence with their friends, even more confidence in their engagement with their athlete. Their athlete now more openly talks to the parent because they feel like they have this sense of agency about themselves, that they can own their own journey and be accountable. That's what fills my cup. That is satisfying in a way that like the financial reward of doing this work is nowhere near what I get honestly every day. Like I literally could do this all of my waking moments and just absolutely love it.
Passion. It's a passion. And every morning I wake up, I'm excited to see who's contacted me, booking guests, promoting my show, downloaded things. I love what I'm doing. And I believe my confidence has grown in the last 7 years since I've started doing this.
And you know, we often talk about confidence in a way that is this kind of nebulous thing, and it's not. It's trainable, right? It's basically trusting your skills and owning your role, and that's it. So if you can find ways to trust your skills, trust your preparation, hone those things, and know your role. Quite frankly, also love your role. Like that's where true, stable, unshakable confidence comes from. And, you know, I talk about a lot of these kinds of frameworks and easy ways to remember. They're much more practical because when our confidence does waver, and there are always moments in our lives that happens for lots of different reasons, if we can ground it back into what confidence actually is, it's a lot easier to stabilize it. So yes, I think it's amazing when we get to use our skills and be in our passion spaces at the same time.
Would you like to see a movie made about mental performance coaches?
Of course. Oh my God.
Which actress would you like to see play you?
Oh my goodness. You mean my story?
Yes.
What actress would play me? Oh my goodness, this is so hard. So I don't know if I agree.
And I've learned
There's
how
a
to
couple
think on
of
my feet.
actresses that people say that I look like. So every so often someone will say that like in a particular angle or when I have my hair straight, maybe J-Lo. I've also heard people say and I don't remember her name. Oh my goodness. But she's a doctor on The Pitt. People have been sending me that. You know, honestly, someone who can just exude the passion and maybe have the big curly hair. Whoever that is, even if they're a total unknown, and actually even better, because I'm a total unknown in this space. So having an actress that is a total unknown play me would be quite an honor.
What's one fun fact about yourself?
Fun fact, let's see. When I was probably about 13, I started my own dance company with a friend. And she and I taught Persian dance. And it started pretty small. And we used to train at her house. And then as it got larger, we moved the training sessions into my house, into the basement. And at its peak, I think we were training about 65 to 75 dancers in 4 separate groups, girls and boys. And this is at 13, 15 years old. I was running a dance troupe. And we would perform all over the place. So we became one of the most well-known youth dance groups, Persian dance groups in our area. And we got invited to the University of Pittsburgh and University of Maryland, and we would dance at the New Year's stuff. Fun fact, as a continuation, is that dance troupe still exists now.
Wow.
Many years later, because we created a model that paid it forward. So I basically had an apprentice year. So we picked 2 or 3 dancers that I then trained for a full year, and then they took over, and then they used that same model. So when my daughter was at the Farsi school, she was in the dance group my sister was in it, 13 years later, and then my daughter was in it. And it still runs. It's still part of the Persian community. And so, yeah, I've been all sorts of things over the years. I've done martial arts and dance, but I would say most people don't know that about me.
What makes a good dancer?
Oh, rhythm. Rhythm makes a good dancer. This love of the music, actually. Dancers that really feel music and don't just count the choreography, they have that it factor on stage that they're truly feeling the music, and those honestly were my favorite. They may not have been the most technical dancers. They may not have, but they were always the most fun to watch because they dance with like an internal joy. And quite frankly, shouldn't we all like dance through life that way? Right?
Unfortunately, I have no dancing or singing ability. I love music, but I
But
tried
approach
karaoke
everything
once.
from that inner joy.
Yes.
That I think that's really like the it factor. It makes the best athlete too, the ones that play with passion. Same with dancers.
And a lot of athletes, they have their own songs during pregame rituals. A lot of them, like baseball, you see it,
Mhm.
football, see it, your hockey now. A lot of these guys, they like certain music that helps them prepare mentally for a game.
Yeah, some of them even train that way. So a lot of them,
Yes.
they're training on their own. They'll play
Yeah.
something and then they'll try to match
Yeah.
the beat to the movement. These are all amazing, amazing techniques.
I gotta ask you this, since I'm a lifelong Philadelphia Eagles fan since 1980, because they beat, as an 8-year-old kid, they beat the Dallas Cowboys, who I hated back then, in the NFC Championship game. That's how I became an Eagles fan. And Vince Papale, who was in the who was a bartender in the 70s, who made the team as a undrafted rookie. They made a movie about him called Invincible. He's somebody that may help me become an Eagles fan. What's the story behind you becoming a Philadelphia Eagles fan?
Oh my goodness. So my family, were right outside DC. And so my family are Redskins fans, and it was Redskins at the time. And then Randall Cunningham came. So I fell in love with this quarterback. I mean, what a special athlete. So I became an Eagles fan then. And then, of course, when I went to grad school and I went to Penn State, it like literally sealed it. Like there was nothing else anybody could say I was going to be a forever Eagles fan. Well, I'm the firstborn of my nuclear household with my parents. So they lost their firstborn to the Eagles. Well, payback came many, many years later when my husband and I went on a cruise and we got back, and both of my children are in still Redskins at the time, right towards the end of that Redskins gear, singing Hail to the Redskins as we walk in. I was like, what has happened? Like, my beautiful small Eagles children have now turned into Redskins fans. Um, well, my son then quickly, was like, no, 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 not me, not me. He's the younger one. He's like, I'm still an Eagles fan with you guys. But my daughter, on the other hand, so I lost my firstborn to back to now the Commanders. So she is a Commanders fan. Now she's a really good sport. So even though we are house divided per se, Commanders, Eagles, because I think the Eagles have done so well in the past set of years, she will put some green on, especially during our Super Bowl moments, and cheer us on. So I didn't quite totally lose her. But we are also now house divided. But I bleed green in all the ways.
And the lead announcer for the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL here, his name's Mike Hogan. He is a lifelong Philadelphia Eagles fan too. And I'm working on hopefully getting one day Mike Quick or Merle Reese on my show, because those are two guys I would love to talk to Mike Quick about his career as a player, but also as a broadcaster. And Merle Reese has been the voice of the Eagles since 1977. He's a legend.
He really is. I mean, what the voice of the Eagles does for the city. I mean, the pulse of the city is the pulse of the Eagles. So on any given Sunday, if the Eagles are having a good game, the city is on a high, and if they are not, it's not a good time to be in the city, even if it's not a home game. So we are diehard fans. If you have never been to an Eagles game in the Link, it is a very, very special experience.
I've been to 4 Eagle games, but 3 of them were in Buffalo, and one was at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, and that was amazing as well. And I'm hoping one day to get back to Philadelphia to see an Eagles game at the Link. And why I love the team too is how passionate the fans are. I know they can be crazy at times, but how passionate they are about the team, and they hold the players accountable too. Maybe sometimes too much, but quick thoughts on last Eagle stuff here. Thoughts on AJ Brown. Obviously, he had a great 4 years in Philly, but I guess it was time for him to move on.
I try to stay away from any extra commentary because I know that in those decisions, there are so many things going on. And oftentimes out of the athlete's control and some in the athlete's control. So we never really get the full story. So I guess maybe because of the work I do, I know that there's so many more details that went into that very thoughtful decision that I just respect that when they make that decision, our job is to support the athlete, the team, no matter what. So I absolutely still respect him as an athlete. We'd love for him to be in green, but anywhere he is, just so incredibly talented.
It's also a business too. And a lot of these guys I get to know, sometimes they get released or they get traded. And you know what? You want to see them do well. And no matter where they go, a lot of them keep in touch with me as well. And it's a business, and it's like the media industry too. Media industry is very cutthroat too. So hey, before we wrap the show up in a couple of minutes, Coach, how did you come about your own podcast show, Becoming My Stronger Me podcast? And just tell us a little bit about your show and your last show. I believe you had with the lady last night or this week.
Kate Crane. Yeah.
Kate.
She was excellent. So the podcast was actually birthed out of that resignation that I shared, a little while back in our conversation that, when I resigned, I actually went through a lot of self-reflection to come to where I am now. It was not easy. And it was in 2021 when all that was happening. And so as the world was opening up and I was starting to see people again, they were like, what have you done? Like, you look happy, you look amazing. Not that I wasn't happy before, but just kind of a different, I guess, glow. And so I would talk about like kind of the reflections and what I was doing and how I was coming to like this next career. And they were like, you gotta, I don't know, write a book, do a blog, do a vlog, do a podcast. And so basically the idea was like, how can I share my journey with others? I actually didn't love that idea. I'll be quite honest. That was not what I'm not really interested in talking about myself and my journey. I'm much more interested in other people's journeys. And the way the podcast was birthed is the piece of my passion that I was really missing was teaching again. So when I became an administrator in higher education, I was no longer teaching and I didn't have that information giving and getting kind of dynamic. And so what I decided to do is, yes, share my journey and my reflections, but from a point of view of education. So every episode has at least in the first season, had at least one psychological concept that I was either introducing, reintroducing, a new concept, a new book. And then I was connecting my experiences and kind of talking about that. Well, then I had all sorts of other people in my network also going through a major life pivot. And so I was like, well, why don't you just come on my show and let's talk about it out loud together and just have a conversation. And so that's where that started to morph into more interviews. So the whole first season, which is an entire year of weekly releases, was mostly about my journey in season 1. And then when mental performance was taking off, I was like, well, I don't have enough time in my coaching an athlete or a coach or a parent to give them all the information I want. Hey, I've got this platform. Let me record myself 8-10-minute episode, 10-minute long episodes on a particular content and send it to them. And again, it sits there publicly. It doesn't hurt anybody. It's still education. Well, that got very popular. And then, of course, I was having Hall of Famers on, Olympians on, because my network in the sports space started to expand really quickly. And the stories and the conversations that I was having, I was like, I want other people to hear this. There's so many gems coming out of everybody. So that's how it was born and how it's morphed now into season 2 and season 3 are all mental performance series. I did turn the hot topics of season 2 into a book because my athletes don't all learn by listening. Now, your show has video. Mine does not, because quite frankly, I do not want to be done up all the time. And I'm recording sometime as like 11 p.m. for a midnight launch. Like the early, stages of this where I was teaching myself and it would take me hours and hours to edit. Yeah, that wasn't super pretty. So no video for me, audio only. And what I found is that the episodes I was sending my athletes, some of them didn't want it in audio. They were like, Coach Nassim, we want to write, we want to highlight, we want to take notes on it. So then I just compiled the ones that I would send to my athletes most often, and I put it in a book. It's called The Stronger Mind. You can see the cover behind me. You can also get it on my website. It sound like an ad, but I'm going to say the website anyway.
No, go ahead, plug your book.
Yeah, it's www.becomingmystrongerme.com. But so if you're not a quote unquote podcast person, although you are listening to this show, but if you're not a podcast person and you do like to write in things and highlight and reflect, the book, what I did is every chapter topic, I added 5 reflection questions that will take you from understanding to doing. So that's kind of a bonus material, for lack of a better word, in the book. But yeah, the podcast, as you know, like podcasts are a lot of work.
Oh yes, I
Right.
do more work in this career than I did in my other career. I put in more
And
hours.
people like you who've been able to get a sponsor or who are able to monetize it, applaud you, because it is hard. So I don't do it. I don't have any of that. I literally do it as a passion project because I meet really incredible people in this line of work. And I always just every time I almost feel guilty because I get to hear all of this amazing information that I'm like, could you just come on my show? Could we have this conversation again? Because they have so much to share.
I can relate completely.
Yeah.
Even though we don't know each other well, there's a connection with us. Just like my guest last night too. By the way, I know you plugged your books. Are they also available on Amazon?
They are not. So
Okay.
I've kind of done what Taylor Swift did is I'm not really a fan of these other parties taking the work. I'll be honest. So they take for those who don't know, they take a huge portion of that author's work and they control the pricing. So I'm not Amazon hating. I'm actually an avid Amazon shopper, but for the authors, I always try to purchase directly from them. Just to support them, especially if they're small authors. Now, I'm not none of these are going to be bestsellers. They're all self-published just as a means to support my own athletes. I am lucky enough that my athletes and my coaches have been sharing it with others. Teams have been purchasing the books to do team reads, either with the parents or with the athletes. So it's taken off, but yeah, they have to go to the website to get it. And that also means I get to write a little note for you. So I do try to write a little note in each one that I send. So it's been a lot of fun. I really love having that opportunity for a bit of a personal touch.
I'd be happy to purchase one of your books to support you.
Thank you.
If you could sign up for me.
You one, Chris. I don't think
Pardon me?
I think I'll be gifting you one. So we'll handle that offline to get your address, and I'd be happy to mail you one. It has been such an honor to be on your show.
By the way, what are your thoughts on the book industry? Because when I was a kid, you probably did the same thing. I used to read a newspaper every day. What are your thoughts on the newspaper industry shrinking? And do you find there's still a need for hard copy books, or everything's going to digital now?
I think it just depends on the person. So there are definitely books that I'll listen as audiobooks, right? I mean, again, I'm not sponsored by any of these. These are just some of my favorites, but Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights was really fun listening to him read the book, right? He's got this amazing, iconic voice and really good book, great message, great storytelling, super engaging. I loved that as an audiobook. Now, my book, I mean, if you want it in audio, it's a podcast, right? Every chapter is its own episode. So you get it that way. I think it just depends on how you learn. And honestly, the book itself. So I still have paper copy books. Like I took one on I bought one on a trip. I finished it on this other trip. Just because on the flight, I was kind of tired of looking at a screen. So, to each their own. I just feel like the sharing of information has gotten to a point where you can consume it in so many different ways that's the beauty of it is if you want it in physical form, you can get it in physical form. If you want it auditory, if you want it visual. And so we're able to be inclusive of all the different kinds of learners there are. And what a blessing that is, because not everybody was good at sitting and reading a book. Right? They just couldn't do it.
Was that is that Matthew the same actor that was in the Miniature Wife series on Peacock?
Oh, I've not seen that series.
That's great, by the way. Her, Elizabeth Banks, who was in the
I love
Invincible
her.
movie, she's in that, and it's a 10 series episodes. It's basically an updated version of The Incredible Shrinking Woman for 10 episodes.
Oh yeah, I will definitely be looking at that. Yeah. I mean, Matthew McConaughey has been in so many different things, but his voice is really, it's really nice to hear his story with his voice. I think the Obamas also, I'm not trying to be political here, but
No.
Their books were also great because it was in their voice. So for me, there's something about like listening to the person themselves read their own words.
Any plans for more books in the future?
Yes. So the other one that you see up here at Baller Goals, that one is a doing book. And what I mean by that, so Stronger Mind is a reading and reflecting book. Baller Goals is a doing book. So I partner with Coach Derek Phillips, who is a retired soccer player. He played for Trinidad and Tobago and lots of different teams in Europe. And we believe that the fundamentals of the game and the mental performance of the game are actually the same. It's not a separate thing. So when you're shooting, you're also working on your confidence and getting over frustration and shaking off errors quickly. When you're juggling, when you're passing, receiving. And so we combine these. And then there are drills, there are self-assessments, all built into this book. So the next one will likely be a different sport. So I'm still working to find the right person to co-author basketball. I have some conversations in the works for track, so the running side of track, not the others. So stay tuned. Baller Goals will be a series for different sports. So that's the thinking right now, is that we'll be expanding very specifically into the other sports in book form.
Can't wait.
And also in Spanish. So this summer, I'm working with a translator to translate both of these books into Spanish. So I am trying to start to work to make sure that it's accessible to a lot of different audiences, because it is so important. And we can't assume that English is anyone's primary language. So there's lots of things in the works, really exciting things coming up, but you can always kind of stay in touch. Socials is probably the fastest way to get information. And then, of course, the website.
When is your next episode for people to listen to? And where can they find your podcast show?
Yeah, so my podcast can be found on all of your favorite podcast channels. So whether you listen on Spotify or Apple Music, or you want a website, you can find it through my website, but you can also find it there. It's called Becoming My Stronger Me. And the episodes release at midnight Monday. So every week an episode releases.
Can you tell us who your next guest is?
So this upcoming Monday is the start of our next mini series. So season 3 is structured a little bit different than the others. I'm doing little mini series throughout the season. So I had a mini series on what mental performance is, what mental performance training is, what mental performance coaching is, and how you can incorporate it. That was the first mini series. And then I did one on confidence and one on pressure. So the next mini series is coming out. So you're just going to have to listen on Monday to hear what the next mini series is. But it is I believe it's a 3-parter. And then I've got some really fun, I'm really excited for the next set of guests that are coming out. So stay tuned. I've got a past Premier League player that's on the show. And I've got some really good ones lined up.
And if you ever need some professional athletes from Canada, let me know, and I'd be happy to refer them to you.
I would love that. We need a lot more representation across the world. I mean,
yes.
The world is so small now.
It's really, it's shrunk because of technology.
Yes, absolutely.
And I used to be 5'9", now I'm 5'4". They'll be doing a mini series about
this box.
Sorry?
And I'm just as big as this box.
Oh, you're probably about 5'10", 5'11".
Yes, we're going to go with that number, not my measly 5'5".
Absolutely. And by the way, my birthday is next week too, and age is just a number. I'll be 54.
Wow. Well, happy early birthday.
Well, thank you so much. And you know what? I've done more living in my 50s than I did in my 20s and 30s, to be honest with you.
As it should be. We should just keep living better and better as we go.
Hey, as we wrap the show up, this is a segment called Ask the Host CDP a Question. CDP, by the way, are my initials, by the way. So do you have a question for me as we wrap this up?
Yes. So who has been your favorite guest, besides me, of course, but who has been
Yes.
your favorite guest, and why?
That's a good question. I've had so many guests. I've had so many guests on my show. I've been really lucky. My most unique guest was Tom Burgoyne, who's played the Philly Fanatic. You know, the mascot, the Philly Fanatic. He's been their mascot for almost 40 years. Tom Burgoyne came on my show for 90 minutes and talked to me how he became the Philly Fanatic and how the Philly Fanatic was created and all the things he does. Every guest on here has got an amazing story. So he would be one of my amazing guests. I've had Rod Smith, who played with the Denver Broncos when they won back-to-back Super Bowls, played with John Elway. I've Brian Chamberlain, a tight end with the Minnesota Vikings. And my show, what I'm most proud about this show, it's not about me, it's about my guests. It's very diverse. I love sports, but I've had musicians, comedians, ventriloquists. I've had shrinks on my show, doctors, lawyers. I just love this show, and anyone that feels comfortable coming on here, I have them on here. I've had Mia St. John. If you know who Mia St. John is, a 5-time women's boxing champion. She came on my show too. But one thing I learned from her was I didn't get to know her right away, and I assumed because she was an athlete, she would be an instant talker. So it took me towards the end of the show to finally get her to warm up. So I tell young podcasters or people going to the radio station, when you get potential guests, try to build a rapport with them before they come on with you, and then really does help. So I've learned from some of my experience as well. But yeah, I would say Tom Burgoyne, the Philly Fanatic, has been one of my favorite guests. And I reached out to him. I never thought he would say yes, and he gave me his cell number and his email, and then he came on. And I've been very fortunate with all these great guests that have come on. And I tell young people too, don't be afraid to reach out. If they say no, it's not the end of the world. No is not a failure. It's a temporary setback. And I've had to change my mindset since I switched careers 7 years ago.
That's amazing. And what an incredible lineup. So again, I am honored to be amongst that group for sure. Really appreciate you.
Well, and one thing I've learned too is, and I get this from athletes too, no matter how successful you get, stay humble, stay hungry, and stay focused.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And finally, where can our audience follow you again on social media, your website, and the best way of contacting you for a virtual session or in-person sessions?
Yep. So all that information you can find on www.becomingmystrongerme.com. So you can link to my socials at Stronger Me on Instagram, at Becoming My Stronger Me on TikTok, of course, Facebook, LinkedIn, just my name, full name. Yeah. So the best way is literally any of those platforms. I respond to all DMs myself and I manage it all. So if you get a response, it is actually me.
One last thing too. I take great pride in getting my guest names right. Did I butcher your name wrong when I introduced you?
I don't have the easiest name, but you did great, especially for your first time. But Nassim Ebrahimi.
Nassim. Okay.
Yeah, you were very, very close, which is why correction wasn't needed. But yes,
because I do take great pride in getting my guest names right, and if not, I make sure I correct it for the next time.
Thank you so much. Well, I would love for there to be a next time.
Yes.
It has been such a joy to talk to you.
And give me a little bit of time tonight, and I will send you the full video. Would you like the full video through WeTransfer? WeTransfer kind of.
Yeah, whatever is best for you.
Because WeTransfer shrinks the file into email format, and then you can download the full episode on your laptop. And also, I'll have the audio available tonight, and I will do some reels and clips because everybody's attention spans nowadays are shrinking. So I did a video the other day at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Me just being silly, throwing a baseball. They were doing some competitions. 14-second video, and I got over 20,000 views for it, just for something simple. for Simple.
It is amazing. So yes, whatever you'd like to do, feel free to just tag me, send me stuff. I'll also create little shorts and I'll tag you as well. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you so much, Coach Nassim. Thank you so much for coming on. Continued success, and I will make sure I share this video with our show with some of the Toronto Argonauts tomorrow, or get them to watch this show as well, and hopefully maybe you'll get some clients from Canada at some point.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and we'll definitely keep in touch on LinkedIn and social media, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody, that wraps up season 14, episode 11, overall 726 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by our friends at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership. Again, they're located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out their website, barrycullen.com, for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of EVs, electric vehicles, and catalytic vehicles as well. And as Barry Cullen Chevrolet going on right now, just going to find it right here on my graphics. Right now at Barry Cullen Chevrolet, there is an EV health check for change. Help support your local children's hospital with an EV health check for change package. For every EV health check package purchase, $10 will be directly donated to your children's hospitals. More details at barrycullen.com, or please drop by the location at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. And again, they are a proud sponsor and advertiser of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. And I do have another announcement before we wrap up the show, guys. My next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by barrycullen.com, is going to take place on Wednesday, June 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern, with special guest Emma Miller. She's a local children's author of The Doolies, a small positive magical elf-like creatures and their adorable pet tree frog Snarf, who live in the lush crystal forest of doom. So Kitchener-Waterloo native Emma Miller will be on to talk about her children's book and possibly a TV series as well. And I'm really looking forward to Emma Miller coming on our show tomorrow as well. And also, guys, the next Argo Bounce podcast show with Nick Small and myself will take place on Saturday, June 27th at 10 a.m. as Nick and I will break down the Argos win over Ottawa 44-24. And also we're going to break down the Argos hopefully a win against Saskatchewan, the Grey Cup champions, this Friday night at 9 o'clock. And yours truly will be at Toronto Argonauts practice tomorrow at the University of Guelph Alumni Stadium. I will have a couple more Argo player interviews, and I will have some more Argo content as well from their practice at the University of Guelph. Congratulations to Mike Miller, the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania native, on his first CFL win as head coach as they beat Ottawa 44-24. And I want to again say thank you to the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame this past weekend for my media opportunities as well. And again, I want to say thank you to my special guest tonight, Dr. Nassim Ebrahimi, a mental performance coach, a speaker, an author, and the founder of her own company called Becoming My Stronger Me, and also the podcast host of her own show called Me Stronger Me Podcast. So please check out Dr. Nassim Ebrahimi on LinkedIn, and also I believe she's on Instagram as well, and her website too. I will leave all her social media sites on her graphics and ticker as we wrap this show up, guys. And again, I want to say thank you to everyone watching this show on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, X, and Instagram, and also to my audience on audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Good Pods, and wherever podcasts are available. And also a shout out to Indulge Ice Cream. Check out their website, indulgeicecream.ca. They're located at 10 Queen Street West in Hespeler Village. If you like homemade Shaw's ice cream, they have 18 to 19 different flavors. Please check out indulgeicecream.ca, the official ice cream of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. That is about it for tonight, guys. Again, Major League Baseball tonight. The Astros beat the Blue Jays 9-7 in 10 innings. And at last count, the Tigers were up 2-1 over the Yankees in the 5th inning at Comerica Park. And as for the World Cup, the Panama was playing Croatia at Toronto Stadium, BMO Field tonight. The last score was 0-0 at halftime. I imagine that game would be over with now as well. And that is about it, guys. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 7 o'clock with Emma Miller. And I have more shows coming up this week. Friday, the Small Talk podcast returns on Friday, June 26th at 7 p.m. Or sorry, Friday, June 26th at 8 p.m. with Marlene Sharp, my co-host, and myself. And we're going to bring on Grace Saint. She is the manager of the Canadian Donkey Sanctuary of Canada. And we're going to learn about donkeys and the Donkey Sanctuary of Canada as well. So that show I'm really looking forward with Marlene and myself, the Small Talk podcast on Friday as well. And I will have another show on Thursday as well. I love what I'm doing, and I want to say thank you to all my wonderful guests and everyone for watching and listening to the show. And of course, to Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership here in Guelph, who has been a advertiser sponsor of this show for the past 3.5 years as well. And that is about it. I hope everybody has a great evening, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night at 7 p.m. with Emma Miller. Have a good night, everyone, and thanks again for watching Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, hosted by yours truly, Chris Pame, and brought to you by our friends at Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership.